Now this video is to help people understand the differences between the different models, the different battery sizes, the different performances, and what to look out for with regards to condition to make sure you're getting a good car. Join me on this video to go through the detail of the Tesla Model 3. My name's Tim Aylan. This is Chargeheads. The most obvious place to start is batteries and range. So if we start with the standard range. So there's essentially three different standard ranges to look out for. The first one, which was 2019 to late 2020 with the chrome trims around the outside, and that had a 53 kilowatt hour battery total and a 49 kilowatt hour battery usable. The reason why there's a difference between total and usable is that is kind of a safety amount to make sure that you're not charging the battery up to 100% and harming it. But generally speaking, all manufacturers have that. Some have wider differences between total and unusable, but that's why I'm talking about total and usable in this context. So yeah, 2019 till late 2020, 195 mile range, and that was an NMC battery. And I'll go through the difference between an NMC battery and LFP in a second. Then from late 2020, where you start seeing the black trims on the outside of the vehicle, to 2022, it was a standard range battery total size of 55, and that usable was 51. So it went up about 2 kilowatt hours. So the mileage range went up from 195 up to 215. Then there was another update where it went to a 60 kilowatt hour battery total and a 57 kilowatt hour battery usable, which gave it 250 mile range, which is pretty staggering for the standard range. So something to look out for on the standard range and all the models really is the fact that late 2020 in America, they were making them in America, and they started putting the black trims on the vehicle. Now you'll notice the difference between the Chinese made one with the black round the outside and the American is because the Chinese one, like in this long range we've got here, has the trims on the doors, and generally speaking they're all wood unless it's got white interior where it will be white. If it's trims on the outside, black trims, and it hasn't got the door trims, the door wood or white, then it's an American made. And something just to double check that, because someone might have wrapped the chrome, is the fact that also the American made late 2020 on the standard range with the LFP battery will have an electric boot and a heat pump, but it won't have the heated steering wheel. But the Chinese one will have the heated steering wheel. The original standard one won't have any of those things. There are quite a few little intricacies that I'm going to go through here just to help you understand what is right for you. So the difference between the NMC battery on the early standard range and the LFP battery on the ones after that is the NMC battery is the one with the cobalt in, and the battery longevity isn't quite as good. When I say that, generally speaking, the NMC battery is rated for 1500 cycles, so 0 to 100%, 1500 times before you expect it to start degrading a lot worse. Bearing in mind my Tesla Model 3 over there, that performance one, that's done 227,000 miles, and at 217,000 miles it had done 1600 cycles. Now some people might ask, well, is that just 0 to 100 or is that 50 to 100, 25 to 100? Which was a question I had, but no, it's full 0 to 100 or any increments of that to give a total cycle. So generally speaking, if you want something that's going to last, then the LFP battery is the better one to have, and that's why often there's quite a big difference in price between those two models. There is a way to check how many cycles the vehicle has had. There are many tests on the market. I'll put a couple of the tests at the bottom, and there are videos, a lot of videos on this channel with regards to battery tests, so go and check out the rest of the videos on this channel with regards to how to test your battery. On to the long range, and we're sat in the long range right now, and the one that we're sat in is a 2000 late 2021 to 2022. But let's start with the first one. So the first 2019 to late 2020, again before that change in the heated steering wheel and the heat pumps, etc. The long range started with a 79 kilowatt hour battery total, 74 kilowatt hour usable, which was 285 miles from new. And when I'm quoting the mileage here, this is from EV database. I don't like quoting WLTP mileage because I don't think it's too realistic, and I've always found that EV database is pretty good. The second one, which was late 2020, which has got the black trims on the outside, to 2022, the long range had a slightly different battery. So the first one was a Panasonic battery. The later one was an LG battery, and it changed the battery size to 75 kilowatt hours, 72 kilowatt hours usable, which was 290 mile range. So it was actually a slightly smaller battery on the kilowatt hours, but I think they've improved the efficiency essentially. But then when they went to the 22 plate, it was a 78 kilowatt hour battery, so just below the original one, and 75 kilowatt hour usable at 300 miles, and that was also an LG battery. It does tend to be that the difference between the Panasonic battery and the LG battery is that the LG battery is better from a long life point of view, and the charging speed doesn't tend to be as good as well from the data that I've seen. Be interesting to see if anyone else has got any data on that as well. Whack it in the comments. So now to the performance. So the performance started with 275 miles. That's 10 miles down on the long range, but it's got the same 79 kilowatt hour total battery, 74 kilowatt hour usable. When it changed to the facelift, as they call it, the facelift, it then changed to 82 kilowatt hours and 76 kilowatt hours usable, which was 290 miles. And that was the Panasonic battery. So Panasonic battery in the performance, the early one and the later one. Then when it came to 2022, they actually made a change to the LG battery, which reduced the battery size from 82 total to 78 total and 75 kilowatt hours usable, then at 285 miles. So as you can probably tell, there's quite a few different versions. All of this information is from EV database, so go and check it out on there. So when it comes to the options between the standard range and the long range, the standard range doesn't have rear heated seats, although they are there and you can turn them on in a number of different ways, which I'm not going to go into, but there are quite a few different ways you can turn them on with retrofitting kits, etc. The sound system isn't as good in the standard range. Those are the main differences between those two specs of car. They all come with the leather, the panoramic roof, the cameras, etc, etc. But if you really like your sound system, then definitely the long range is for you. Although there are a number of upgrade kits you can get on the retrofit market. So what's the difference of the long range versus the performance? So the first thing to note are the chrome pedals, which are down there, which only come on the performance. They can obviously be retrofitted quite easily. You've also got the 20-inch wheels. You've got the upgraded brakes at the front and rear, so it's upgraded calipers, bigger discs, front and rear, and different pads. Also, the motor at the rear is slightly different on the performance. You've got a bit more torque from that motor, although you can update the long range with acceleration boost from Tesla, and there are other aftermarket things like Engine X, which again, there's videos where I've boosted my Tesla Model 3 long range, where it's not really that much difference in performance against long range against the performance. However, that initial torque is really strong with the performance, which you will notice on drag racing videos we've done again on the channel. So also don't forget there is the rear spoiler on the performance, a very subtle performance spoiler which doesn't really make much difference to the range, although a lot of people put those performance spoilers on long range and standard range. You will notice, and something to be aware of, is there tends to be a bit of lack appeal and the fitment isn't great at the edges, and quite a lot have been replaced by Tesla. But if you need to pick up another one, they're pretty cheap on eBay. One of my favorite options on the performance is the, where is it? Track mode. There it is. Click on that, track mode. Supposedly only on track. The actual display is different on this to the early ones because I'm in a later one here. So it will show you the heat of the battery, heat of the motors, and also you can go into customize where you can change to drift. There's handling balance from rear to front, stability assist. You can turn the regenerative braking off, post-drive cooling. You can save dash cam for laps. There's loads there. Race presets. You know, you can add different profiles in there as well. Not to mention, you've also got a G meter, which is behind that warning that's coming up there. So if you're going to take the car on track, you really need to get the performance. You cannot retrofit the track mode on a long range. Although I know a lot of people that have fun on track with a long range. Obviously with the track mode, you can completely turn the traction control off, not on the roads. You can turn the traction control off on the standard range and long range and boost the power with the Engine X Boost 50. And again, go and check out the videos which I've highlighted that on. When it comes to wheels, there are a few options. With regards to the standard range and the long range, if you see the aero caps on the wheels, they have these rather nice Enkai, which is a really good Japanese brand. They're actually really nice wheels behind those aero caps. They're quite light, strong, and you can get a number of different caps to make them look better once you take the aero caps off. However, if you take the aero caps off, you are really going to be taking a bit of a range hit of about 5 to 10%, depending on what type of journeys that you're doing. There are also some alloy wheel upgrade options where you can go from the standard 18s to 19-inch wheels, and the performance, all of them come with the 20-inch wheels. They started with the 20-inch wheel in silver, then they started doing an anthracite style wheel. Then for the slightly later models, when they brought in the facelift, they changed the wheel to the turbine wheel, which generally come in like a dark grey colour to black. Now, the fit and finish of the American cars doesn't tend to be as good as the Chinese ones. And when it comes to the panel gaps and the paint quality, the Chinese ones do tend to be better. When I look at my 2019 model, I do see that there are a couple of panel gaps and paint issues. Not great, but not the end of the world. Doesn't really bother me that much. But one thing to really highlight between the American made cars and the Chinese, and I'm not sure if there's a difference between the late American ones, is the quality of the interior, the drive, the switches, everything else is very different. Even the arch linings has got more sound deadening. You can tell straight away that you're driving an American one, the older one, versus the new ones, because the ride quality and everything else is a lot more premium than the previous models. So, performance. Now, there is a few different performance 0 to 60s between the different models and obviously between the different specs. So on the standard range, the early standard range and the facelift standard range, the 0 to 60 is 5.6 0 to 60 and 170 kilowatt charging speed. When it went to the bigger battery on the standard range, that then put the 0 to 60 up to 6.1. Because there's a bigger battery, there was more weight. When it comes to the long range, apparently the longer range models, according to EV Database, the first ones were 4.6 0 to 60, and then the ones after that were 4.4. And then the performance models, again, this is according to EV Database, it says 3.6 0 to 60. However, you will see that there's a lot of data around the 0 to 60 being a lot quicker than that, anything down to sort of 2.9. Now, there's all sorts of reasons for that. First of all, Tesla was supposed to upgrade the performance. Also, it depends on the heat of the battery, the state of charge of the battery, and of course, many other little variables, whether it's the road, whether it's your tires and things like that. So I'm in my original Tesla, which I bought 3.5 years ago now, because I wanted to show you the difference in interior. So as you can see, there is the normal dash at the front. This is white, however it was originally brown. I just changed it, but as you can see, it hasn't got the inlays on the doors on either side, and the interior panel is different as well. As you can see, it's got these flip up bits here for the storage and also for the phone. Now, it doesn't come standard with this phone section here. It can be purchased optionally, and I've just retrofitted it. It's really easy, and it plugs into the two USB leads underneath there. The screen is very, very similar, and it's similar on all the models on the Atom style chip until it moved to the Ryzen chip, which I'll show you in our performance model. Now we are in the latest Tesla Model 3 that I've got out the 3 here today, and this is a performance we're sitting in, and interior wise it's pretty much exactly the same, other than the fact that this particular model has the white interior, which is £1,000 upgrade, where you get the white seats, the white dashboard, and that's about it really. Now, the reason why I'm sat in this car isn't just to highlight the white interior, which by the way is really easily cleanable, and this car has done, wait for it, 227,000 miles. And look at these seats. They're literally pristine condition. But another reason I want to show you this car is because this particular car has the newer chip, and this might be a factor in the car that you choose. Now, when you get into a car with the newer chip, it will have on the main screen, the car on it. It won't be split up like so. As soon as you put your foot on the brake and you put it into drive, then the map will come on. And also, with regards to the screen, it's more of a heat map style, so it gives you a little bit more detail in terms of what you're close to. What are the benefits of this newer chip, other than the fact that it's slightly different screen and you've got the benefit of having the heat map here when you're parking, etc. But also it has been shown that the speed of loading things such as Netflix and other map functions is a lot quicker. And also the fact that you can actually add things like Grok, the AI tool, to this particular version of the chip, and that may well increase the number of things that you can add over time. Because the great thing about the Tesla Model 3 is the number of updates that your car gets every sort of 2 weeks to a month. So many things that are added to the car. So someone with a 2019 car, if they've had it since 2019, if they've got it in 2025, the number of software options that have been increased on the car are quite amazing. Things like side assist, extra safety features, they're constantly updating the car. Are you looking for something for a present or something to make your life easier? So I've got this, which isn't just a jet wash. Let me show you what it can do. And this. My tyres are getting low, no problem. Add the air compressor attachment. But wait, there's more. Meet my Hoover attachment. The power bank can also be used as a wireless charger for your phone and multiple other things with different outlets. So if you want an all-in-one tyre inflator, jet wash, Hoover, and battery storage power pack, this is an all-in-one tool just for you. And if you want to take advantage of the 20% discount, use the Chargeheads code. If you've got a Tesla and you want to add accessories, they do some really good stuff like body kits, spoilers, splitters, rear screens for entertainment, upgraded ambient lights, and many other things. So go and check out Hancho, detail in description. When you go and have a look at Tesla Model 3, there are a number of things that I would recommend looking out for before you part with your money. First of all, don't look at one in the rain, and it's raining at the moment, and also don't look at one in the dark, like with any car. Check all the tyres. Now the tyres, they are susceptible for wearing on the inside edges because the wheel alignment needs doing quite a lot more on these particular vehicles. The reason for that is when any of the bushes or arms are changed, generally speaking, wear and tear of the car, which tends to be a little bit more in these cars because of the weight, is that some people don't redo the tracking, and that can really affect the tyre wear on the car. Curbing, yes, okay, you're always going to check for curbing, but it might not be as obvious if you've got the aero cap on the wheel. So if you can, just take the aero caps off, and they're really, really simple to take off like so. And if someone says it's a performance car, if it's got the red calipers, just tap on them like that, because they could be plastic covers. But just be aware of that people say it's a performance, but they might have just made it look like a performance by putting on different calipers, the plastic ones, or they've upgraded them. So things to potentially look out for. Another thing to be very wary of is mud flaps. I would always recommend to put mud flaps on these cars because the wheels kick up stones, especially the long range and the performance, because it's got a motor in the front. And as you can see here, although it's got the mud flaps on, this is starting to go a tiny bit. This car has done 106,000 miles, and I'm going to be doing a full video on this very soon because it is actually for sale. It's not mine, it's a trader friend of mine. So if anyone's interested, then keep an eye out for that video. So yeah, check out the bottom of the front arches and also check out the bodywork, but I would check the car panel by panel just for any potential paint defects. Yes, look at the panel alignment. They tend to be not very aligned up here, so if you compare this one to my white one, this is actually really good. All the door lines and everything else, really good. tends to be here. You can see that sometimes there's a little bit of a difference, but like I said, a Chinese one, like this specific one here, they tend to be a lot better than the American ones. Some of them have the badges on the back, some people take them off. If it hasn't got a badge on the back, it's a standard range from factory. Dual motor is obviously the front and rear motor one, and then performance will have a red line at the bottom. But one car I didn't actually mention is they do actually do a long range rear motor, so I'll get the specs for that. So the long range rear wheel drive version is the most efficient and has the longest range, because you haven't got as much weight and you've only got the one rear motor propelling the vehicle. So if you want a vehicle with the longest range and the best efficiency, that's the one to go for. However, it is very rare. It was lease only option when it first came out, and they only did it for a small amount of time. I have met people with this model and they rave about it and they absolutely love it. Something of a bit of a rare beast. And talking of rare beast, I've just thought of another one. So really early on, they did something called a stealth performance. And the stealth performance was essentially performance rear motor. It was essentially a performance, but it didn't have performance brakes. It had the 18-inch wheels, not the 20-inch wheels. And yeah, it was just a bit of a mishmash. I would say it's actually the quickest one you can get because it hasn't got those heavy 20-inch wheels. So you would have seen in a video a while back, we did a video on a very high mileage Tesla Model 3. That was a stealth Tesla Model 3 performance. I would say it's probably one of the best ones you can get because it's got all the right bits on it. And if you want to upgrade the brakes, you can, which I would recommend. So if you're a bit of a petrolhead or chargehead like me, then you want to have something with the better brakes, because I found the long range, if you're giving it some pasty, as in putting your foot down a bit, then you know you might want to upgrade the pads. And the pads, I mean, the brakes, they last so long. I did another video on an extremely high mileage Tesla Model 3. It done like 254,000 miles. He didn't change the pads till 220,000 miles. And there are loads of videos about Tesla Model 3s, whether it's modifications, long mileage ones, battery tests, all sorts of things. It's kind of petrolhead style EV videos, and also some car reviews. So please like and subscribe and go and check out those other videos. Share the channel as well, really trying to push it out there to other people just to grow the brand so I can do more content like this for you. So these cars do not come with privacy glass standard, but I know that a lot of people add the privacy glass to them. Some of the tint only comes to here, which is up to the standard tint, but on my white one I actually got it done all the way up to here. So there are a few differences on when people are tinting these cars. Make sure you drive it. The early ones are susceptible for squeaking top arms, so make sure that you drive the car slowly, make sure you turn the wheel both ways, reverse it, make sure you do all the possible maneuvers in the car to check for knocks and bangs. And like I said before, they are susceptible for bushes and lower arms, so just check for knocks and bangs when you're on a drive. Try and find a road that has got a few bumps. In terms of wear, I noticed on this particular one that I think this is quite a common thing where the people put their elbow there, so there's just a slight mark there. But to be honest, the rest of the car, the seats hold up really, really well, so you don't really need to worry about that so much. Something I've seen on a lot of the Model 3s, and recently on the early ones as well, but the later ones, the leather starts to come away, the faux leather starts to come away a little bit. This one's not too bad actually, but on the high mileage one that I had there, it had rips in it. And I did see an early one which had a massive rip in it here, but these steering wheels are actually very easy to replace and they cost about 150 quid. So now we're inside the original car. So as you can see, this is the older style screen compared to the later chip, but you will notice that the facelift have a slightly different middle console. The center bit there is slightly different, and it does have space and charging for phones as standard. This particular car has Autopilot. Now, if you click the car there and you go into software, it'll actually tell you not only the mileage, so this is done just under 107,000 miles, but it'll also tell you whether it's got Autopilot computer and full self-driving. Now, a mistake that I've made in the past, this says full self-driving computer 3. It says Autopilot premium connectivity. Now, this car does not have the full self-driving £6,000 option. So Let me show you what that looks like in my white one, which does. As you can see here, it says full self-driving capability included package. The Autopilot is an optional extra compared to the standard, rather than just having side assist and lane assist. It does have some good elements of full self-driving where you do have to put your hands on the wheel, but it does an amazing job on the motorway and on the main roads. On the kind of country roads, roundabouts, no good. You need to be very aware and be driving it yourself. However, the full self-driving, if you can get one with it, is it worth £6 grand? Probably not. Having got used to it, and with the lane changing capabilities and the summon mode, I really like it. I would probably spend an extra 1,000, maybe 2,000 if I'm doing a lot of long journeys, but I don't think I paid that much more than that on a used vehicle. When it comes to servicing, it's completely different to a petrol car. And I would say a Tesla is completely different to any other electric car. Tesla do not need any servicing regime or schedule to keep its warranty. So you don't need to be looking out for a particular service history on a Tesla. You just need to make sure that the car has been looked after. It's that battery test which is absolutely paramount. But when it comes to other electric cars, there are certain service regimes where they have to service it every year, every 2 years to keep that warranty. Tesla, that's not the case. And one thing, this is probably the most important thing before buying a Tesla Model 3 or any electric car, do a battery test. There are so many different battery tests out there. Some just test what the battery looks like, not on load. When I say not on load, it's not charging or discharging, and some do. So I personally would always recommend the Tesla battery test. The only challenge with that is that it does take 16 hours to do. To do that, you click the car button, you go to service, you make sure it's plugged in charging, you hit battery health, and you do a battery health test. Now this is 92%, because I did this battery test for my friend a few days ago, and 92% on a nearly 7,000 mile car is really, really good. Bearing in mind, this is the LG battery in this one. So it just goes to show that the LG battery does tend to have a slightly better life. The Panasonic batteries are still very, very good, but I would always do a test. Bearing in mind, you don't know what type of charging regime and discharging that the vehicle's had. Because if the vehicle's been held at 100% state of charge for long periods of time, it can harm the battery. The same as if it's been held at sort of 1% to 10% a lot of the time as well. It's not necessarily the mileage. I hasten to add, mileage shouldn't necessarily put you off a used Tesla. You should just focus on the condition, suspension, etc., and the battery health. That, I believe, is the most important thing when you're purchasing a Tesla Model 3. Like with any car, make sure you check all the electrics, everything around the vehicle, make sure everything works. The Teslas do tend to be a little bit susceptible. It's not that common, but with the heater matrix not working, so make sure you check the heater and the air conditioning to make sure it's working properly. So let's talk about prices and where to get the best possible value. Now, I've purchased from Auto Trader, my original Tesla. The second one I bought out of auction. Now, you can't buy out of auction unless you're a motor trader, and I asked a friend who's a trader to buy that for me. Not everyone's in that position. When you're looking at Facebook Marketplace, be aware there are so many scammers on there. So just if it looks too cheap, there's generally a reason for that. So do all the necessary checks, make sure the V5 registration document's in their name, prove it with the driving license, all the normal sort of stuff. And with any car, make sure you do a MOT check. So MOT check on Google, put in the registration, and it will tell you any potential advisories, and a normal HPI check or Experian check to make sure it's never been crash damaged, because there's a lot of dodgy people out there trying to sell cars, especially cars with dodgy batteries. Not necessarily on Teslas, but I've seen it on other electric cars. And I saw a standard range one there recently, a couple of months ago. It was £8,000 for a standard range, 163,000 miles. It was a early one, 69 plate with an NMC battery, and I couldn't really tell the conditional battery, but it went really, really quick. So if you see a really good value car, just get to the car really quickly so you don't get disappointed and, you know, miss out on it. eBay, there's cars obviously on eBay and lots of other platforms. I'm more than happy to purchase privately because you get to see the person, you get to see how they've, you know, you can ask them more questions rather than the car that's come out of auction and gone to a trader. And a lot of these traders out there, they do not do those battery tests. If it's a private person, they may be more willing to do a battery test. I prefer to buy privately, generally speaking, because traders, you can never be sure which ones are good, which ones are trying to cover up stuff, etc. But, you know, it's car by car basis. You just never know. Just do all the relevant checks, as I mentioned before, look round it, have a drive, and battery test, and yes, battery test. Make sure it's done. Thank you so much for watching this. If you've enjoyed it, again, go and watch the rest of the videos on the YouTube channel. And we have got a podcast every week talking about all sorts of things, every Sunday live 8 o'clock with me, Alex Grant, and Kevin Booker, who's also a Guinness World Record holder for efficiency in EVs, and it's also on Spotify, so go and check that out.